Most of today's chronic health problems are the result of too much sugar and carbohydrates. It shifts your body's biology into an unhealthy state, which is called metabolic syndrome. I call it internal global warming. And it's really behind heart disease, diabetes, low energy, low mood, so many chronic conditions. The general thinking has been it's about sugar. But actually what happens is when your blood sugar goes too high, the body has to produce a lot of insulin. And the more often this is happening, you become resistant or insensitive to insulin, so now you really make a lot. And insulin takes the sugar and turns it into fat. It's the fat-storing hormone. It also raises your cholesterol level, it raises your triglycerides, your blood pressure, deteriorates your eyesight. And if you have both too much glucose and insulin, it's a recipe for a heart attack and a stroke. It also promotes cancer cell growth. So the holy grail is to bring your insulin down. Now, there are different ways of doing them. One is the Banting diet, where you have no carbs, lots of protein, lots of fat. Another way, which I prefer, is you have less carbs and you choose the right carbs that release their sugar slowly, a little bit more protein. Also, if you increase soluble fiber, for example in oats, that lowers the insulin production. And also, if you always eat carbohydrate with protein, so for example, scrambled eggs on toast, that works too. So does chromium. Chromium is an essential mineral that you can supplement that is required for the insulin receptor, so it reverses insulin resistance. Now, the problem with the Atkins or Banting diet is that it works. I mean, it does work for weight loss, it does work for diabetes reversal. But quite a few long-term studies of 6 months to a year show that people don't tend to stay on it. So it doesn't have a very good sort of maintenance effect. People get bored and they just drift away from it. But the real concern lies in two problems. One is, as soon as you get your protein intake up to 20% of calories, and by the way, the Banting diet is 20 to 30% of calories from meat, it starts to stress the kidneys. There was a very good study of 30 studies published in August in the very good journal, the Public Library of Sciences. And it basically showed that every measure of kidney stress, of kidney function, gets worse on a high protein diet above 20% of calories from meat. You do not get the same effect if the protein source is primarily vegetarian, for example, bees. But my real concern with this way of eating long term is that it could be a recipe for colorectal cancer. And again, just recently there was a very important paper in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and it explained how when you eat a lot of red meat, cured meat or processed meat, you're literally introducing carcinogens into the digestive tract. So for example, in cured meats, they're cured with nitrates, and they combine to form nitrous amines. And nitrous amines can literally turn a healthy colon cell into a cancer cell. Also, if you burn meat, you create these, that's meat fat, you create these very, very strong carcinogens, which are called heterocyclic amines, or HCAs, and polyaromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. So you've got three really well-established carcinogens in the gut. And of course, one of the big problems with a very high meat fat diet is it slows down your gastric transit time, and that is really a recipe for disaster. Both the World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute of Cancer say that the link between red meat and processed meat and colorectal cancer is extremely convincing. In the UK, we've seen a rise in colorectal cancer risk among people on the Atkins diet, and one of our leading bowel cancer experts is now saying, you know, this is not a good idea. Bowel cancer is more likely to develop when people eat a lot of animal fat and there is slow-moving transit through the gut. And also what's been recorded in people who have this low-fiber, high-meat diet is all sorts of problems, psychological problems, including lethargy and a lack of sex drive. So I don't think this is the right way to achieve the holy grail of lowering your insulin. In order to lower your insulin, you have to eat a low glycemic load diet. And there are really two pieces to this. The Atkins or Banting approach really focuses on reducing the quantity of carbs In other words, instead of 2 pieces of toast, 1 or none, they would say. But that's only half the story. The other half is making sure the carbohydrates you do eat release their sugar slowly. That's called the quality of carbs, or the glycemic index. So, for example, if we take watermelon, a nice big 120-gram slice, most of it's water. There's only 6 grams, or a teaspoon, of actual carbohydrate. Then the question is, how fast does that sugar release? Now, glucose, which is the fastest sugar, is 100 by definition. White sugar is 76, and watermelon sugar is 72. So basically, in a slice of watermelon, you've got fast-releasing sugar, but very little of it, a teaspoon. And you literally work out the GL of a food by multiplying the quantity, in this case 6, by the quality, 0.72, and that gives you 4 GLs. My approach is very simple. You eat no more than 40 GLs a day if you want to lose weight, 60 to maintain it. You always eat protein with carbs. So, for example, if you have some fruit, you have some nuts. If you have some toast, you have some eggs, something that contains protein. And you graze rather than gorge. In other words, eat little and often. So, for example, when you come to a main meal, what you do is have half of the plate as vegetables. They're very, very low GL. You have 1/4 of the plate protein, for example, the amount of meat or fish that would fit onto the palm of your hand. And you have 1/4 as the starchy carbohydrates. We're talking here about rice, pasta, potatoes, squash, something like that. But of course you want to choose the whole ones, the whole wheat, the brown rice and so on. And this way of eating is very easy, it's very sustainable. People report 5 kilos a month weight loss without ever feeling